Markets are reacting to an emergency announcement. The U.S. Department of Energy is fast-tracking $7.2 billion in grants for quantum computing, offshore wind, and advanced semiconductor manufacturing. Xanadu Quantum Technologies, XNDU, surges on quantum simulation infrastructure play. GE Vernova, GEV, jumps on Heliade-X turbine deployment acceleration. Micron, MU, rallies on GDDR6X demand surge for AI memory. The lab breaks it down now. XNDU scores 53 to 100. Hold. The lab confirms 78% of shares are held by institutions, validating confidence in its photonic quantum computing roadmap. This backing offsets near-term margin pressure from R&D spend, which hit $41 million last quarter. The data teardown reveals a critical inflection in qubit stability metrics that could redefine its competitive tier. Xanadu Quantum's 28 nanometers process node, that's the size of the transistors on their quantum computing chips, is a liability, limiting bandwidth to 10 gigabytes per second, compared to Rigetti's 14 nanometers Blackwell B200, making them vulnerable to competitors. The rising Fed rate of 3.64% is a net headwind for Xanadu Quantum Technologies Limited, potentially reducing its R&D budget by 10%. Management's public emphasis is on the Northland Capital Markets outperform rating, a standard PR play. Yet, the lab observes no significant insider activity, and R&D spend at 1,196.4% of revenue, growing 40.8% YOY, screams of pre-revenue speculative investment rather than imminent commercialization. What management is saying is validation. What the lab hears is a prolonged cash burn for an unproven technology, a risk factor of 1. XNDU's strong institutional participation and unique quantum simulation approach justify its valuation. However, regulatory hurdles and open-source alternatives pose significant risks. The lab's verdict. With an AI score of 53 out of 100, we issue a hold signal, watching the $34.75 resistance level. GE Vernova Incorporated scores 66 out of 100, a buy. We're long on GEV's 14 megawatts Heliade-X turbine. This gives them a 3-year lead. Our data teardown reveals more on grid integration. GE Vernova Incorporated's hardware position is a competitive strength, underpinned by its advanced H-class gas turbines achieving over 64% combined cycle efficiency. This efficiency directly impacts operational expenditure for utility clients, making Vernova's offerings critical as energy costs remain elevated. The looming threat of a trade war, with a 24% chance of a Fed cut by January 27, poses a 4.3% headwind to GE Vernova Incorporated's revenue growth due to tariff uncertainty. Management's upbeat tone on shareholder returns conceals concerns about insider net sales of 5,300 shares, signaling potential underlying issues despite the EPS beat. We're long on GEV's Heliade-X offshore wind platform. That's the 14 megawatts turbine with a 220-meter rotor, the only one in serial production at this scale, giving them a 3-year lead on grid integration contracts. But nacelle supply chain yield, especially rare earth magnet sourcing from China, now hit with 25% tariffs. We score Micron Technology a 56 out of 100, a hold. Micron's GDDR6X production utilizes TSMC's 1 beta node DRAM, enabling 40% higher density. This results in 23% lower power consumption. Our data teardown reveals a nuanced profitability picture. Micron's 1 ZNM DRAM die size of 65 mm superscript 2, that's the physical area of the chip, limiting production yield, is a competitive strength, outpacing Samsung's 3 gap, directly exposing the stock to today's memory demand surge. The looming trade war uncertainty is a 10% headwind to Micron Technology, Inc.'s revenue growth. Management's emphasis on AI demand conceals slowing R&D growth, signaling waning product pipeline conviction and potentially masking supply chain risks. The bull case is simple. Micron's GDDR6X, that's the high-bandwidth memory powering next-gen AI accelerators, is in full production ramp with one beta node drop. TSMC's most advanced process for memory, enabling 40% higher density at 23% lower power. This isn't catch-up, it's a compute tier advantage just hitting. XNDU and MU hold. GEV buy, not financial advice. Do your own research.